Hello and welcome to episode 81 of the Confessions of a Yarn Addict podcast. Today I'm going to share a new cast on, some progress, some cinema knitting, a little bit of a mistake I made, and a few other things. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Hello, my name is Anniken. I design knitting patterns. I teach knitting workshops online and in person, and I sell yarn through my website yarnaddict.co.uk. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. It doesn't cost you anything and it does help me a lot. And if you want to be notified each time I upload a video, please click the notification bell. At the moment, or so far this year, I've been uploading videos every Thursday and every other Tuesday. For the summer, I'm going to trial uploading 2 videos a week. So there'll be one every Thursday and one every Tuesday. I think I'll be okay doing it till the end of August. September, I'm not sure because I'm away for a couple of weeks. And then there's Yarndale, and then we're going to Scotland after that to visit family. So September's going to be really busy. So we'll see once we get into the autumn how often I can upload, but I will be sticking to the once a week, once every other week, twice every other week format, definitely. But for the summer, I'm going to trial twice a week and see how it goes. So videos will be going up on Tuesdays and Thursdays about 3 p.m. UK time. So thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Today I'm going to talk about what's on my needles, some new projects, what I knitted at the cinema last night and how that went, and a few other things. First, I want to just remind you that I do have a special offer that's valid until the end of July. So only a few days left now. And that is 25% off all my patterns from both Ravelry and Payhip until the end of July. The code is July25, all one word, all lowercase. I'll put the links and the discount code below. So if you haven't taken advantage of that offer, or if you fancy buying more patterns, please go ahead and do that. Also, I'm happy for you to share that code with anyone. So if you're a member of any online groups, or if you have social media and you're happy to share that code, then please go ahead and do that. You can use that code as many times as you want. So if you've already bought a pattern and you want something else, then just go ahead and use the same code. You can use it as many times as you want. So let's talk about what I've been knitting. So you may remember from last week that I was showing you these lace squares that I knitted. So that was the first one. That was the second one. They are identical. And that was the third one. And then I think I'd knitted another one last week that I hadn't blocked yet. I'm just going to put this away in my windowsill. And I think I mentioned that I had knitted another one which I hadn't blocked yet, which is this one. Still haven't blocked it. And then I have knitted another one and another one. These are actually all slightly damp because I knitted them last week, maybe one over the weekend. And yesterday I had to block a new shawl. So I thought I would block these at the same time. So I soaked a shawl. And while I was blocking the shawl, I put these into soak, and then when I finished blocking the shawl, I realized that there was no space in my blocking mats to block anything else. So I got these out because I couldn't leave them soaking overnight, and I just put them on the side to dry, sort of on the side of the blocking mat. But for them to fit on the side of the blocking mat, I had to fold them in half. I was trying to see if there was enough space that I could block them, like folded over, but there wasn't. So I left them there to dry, and the shawl was dry this morning. These are not dry, so just the fact that I've folded them over, and I guess when I pin it out I stretch it so it makes the fabric a bit thinner, I don't know. But anyway, these are not dry and they're slightly damp, so after this video the first thing I'm going to do is to go downstairs and block them. And then so I'm knitting these from my Botanical Yarns advent calendar from last year. I talked a bit more about it last week, and I did show the whole advent calendar thing that I've got hanging up on my wall, all the skeins. So I'm not going to get them back down again and show you, but it comes in basically 4 fades. So each fade goes from a dark color to a light color. And the first 6 days was blues, second 6 days are purples, the third were burgundy to like pale pink. I'm just looking at them over the wall, on my wall over there. Fourth group of 6 is very similar to the second group of 6. But I started on the second group of 6, so that's the first one, that's the darkest color. So this week I'm not planning to work on that project very much because I do have another project I really need to be getting on with. Another thing I've done, talking about advent projects, I also want to get started on my second advent calendar, which was Orchidee Luxury Yarns, which is a marine and silk sock yarn blend. So I swatched a potential stitch pattern. I'm not 100% sure yet, but what I'm thinking is each motif in a different color, and then there are some rows of garter stitch in between, and maybe those in this solid skein that it came with. So the advent calendar came with 24 20-gram mini skeins plus 100-gram skein. So what I need to do is work out how many stitches I would need to cast on, and then work out how many rows each 20-gram skein would be, and how many rows of the garter stitch I could do in the solid color, and see if it's going to work out. I don't think I'm going to do this week. I think that's going to be my focus project for August. I also have a design commission that's due in September, I think, which has just been commissioned this morning, and I will need to get most of that done in August because of the fact that I'm going to Norway at the start of September. So I've knitted this swatch and blocked it. Blocked it yesterday. This managed to just squeeze in next to the shawl I was blocking yesterday. So I'm going to do some maths on that later this week, and then next week I'll probably wind up some of the yarn from that advent calendar and do some more cast on for what I think it will be, and then do some weighing and experimenting, and I'll let you know how I get on. Maybe I'll film a project vlog when I do that. We'll see. So talking about advent calendars, last time I was saying that I have ordered an advent calendar for Christmas. I've ordered the Truly Hooked advent calendar, which is 4-ply sock yarn advent calendar, but I was also kind of toying with the idea, saying I quite fancied like a DK one, but I didn't remember seeing any DK ones. Anyway, Alison sent me a couple of emails with a couple of suggestions, so thank you very much, Alison. I really appreciate it. I can't remember what the first one was. It wasn't an indie diary I'd heard of before, I don't think. But the second one was Yarn Unique, and I have used her yarn before, and I really like her yarns, and I liked her advent calendar last year. So I looked at hers first to see what they were. And for DK Marina, I think it is, so she's doing one called, I think it was called Neon Pops, which sounds like fun. So I ordered that one. So I will now be having a 4-ply sock yarn advent calendar come and a DK. So 2 advent calendars this year, and that is it. I'm not ordering any more advent calendars. I think that's enough. So I'm quite excited about that, and I just want to say thank you, Alison, for reaching out for some suggestions. I'd seen the Yarn Unique ones on Instagram, but I hadn't actually looked to see what options she offered, and because some of these were like advertised on Instagram a little while ago, I'd kind of lost track of who, like, because I think some of them put their opened up for pre-orders and then closed them, and some have left them open. So I kind of lost track about who was advertising what, and I hadn't thought about looking at any other ones that I had been interested in, because Yarn Unique was one of the ones after last year that I had on my short list. And now I've got one coming, so I'm very excited about that. So last week I cast on for a new project, and I think I mentioned it. I think I'd only just cast on when I filmed last week, or I was about to cast on. But this is my swatch for it, and I wasn't that happy with the swatch. I decided not to use this stitch pattern at the top because I wasn't happy how it worked with the stitch pattern at the bottom. So I just went with this kind of snowflake at the bottom. But I wasn't that happy with it because I don't know how easy it is to see, but it does look a bit uneven, just a bit lumpy and bumpy really, and that can happen especially when you're knitting on a smaller circumference in thicker yarns. I mean, it's kind of like mitten circumference, I guess, but I just wasn't that happy with it. But I thought once I'm knitting on a bigger circumference, that would be fine. So I started knitting and I still wasn't 100% happy, and I was thinking maybe I should have gone down a needle size and used 3.75mm instead of 4mm, but I couldn't really be bothered to rip out what I was doing because I had like 220 stitches or something. So I just changed needle size at the end of kind of like the first repeat, and then I thought if I'm happier with the 3.75 and the bit with the 4mm looks very different, then I can just cut my yarn and unravel that section, or cut that section out if you like. So that's what I decided. So I knitted another repeat, so I'd done about 40 rounds in total, and I still wasn't happy. So I just steam pressed the bit I'd done on 3.75mm needles. This is not how you should do it, but I just couldn't be bothered to knit another swatch, so I just took my needles out, steam pressed a section of what I've done, measured my tension to what I got on 3.75mm, decided on another stitch pattern and used that tension as a basis to cast on the new stitches, which isn't really the way you should do it if you're doing it properly, but I was cutting corners because different stitch patterns can obviously knit up at different tensions. Anyway, I cast on again. I was doing fine till this morning, and then I realized I'd made a mistake. I still don't really know where I made a mistake, but I had a round where I thought this doesn't look right, but I carried on and did another round, and then on the next round, towards the end of the next round, I was like, no, there's definitely something wrong. So I ended up I had like 3/4 of a round I took out, and then I took out the 2 rounds below that, and then I started knitting again, and it seems to be working out okay now. So I think maybe the mistake was just 1 round down. I needn't have taken out nearly 3 rounds. I could have stuck with just 2. I'm not quite sure what I did wrong, but anyway, I'm happier now. So this is what the stitch pattern looks like. Now, part of the reason why I'm happy with this, I think, is because the largest number of stitches in any one color is 3. So you have 1, 2 and 3 stitches in each color, and the pattern repeat is quite easy to memorize. So I have to look at the start of each round, and then it's basically like 2 2 1 2 2 3, or 2 2 3 2 2 1, something like that. So it's fairly easy to memorize and fairly easy to knit, I find, except for when I make a mistake. And I think because there are shorter floats and things, it just looks more even, and the tension is much better. What I haven't done is check that it's big enough yet. I'm getting to a point now, it looks big enough. I'm getting to a point now where I've knitted enough. I'm nearly halfway through my 3rd repeat, so I'm thinking it's getting big enough now that I can actually double check the width and make sure that it's actually coming at the right size. I would really like to finish this by the end of this week. It's Tuesday today, and I really need to finish this by the end of this week. I cast on for the first version last week, I can't remember what day, and then I cast on for this over the weekend maybe. I was out a lot yesterday because I went to the cinema yesterday, so we were out like from about 4 in the afternoon till 9, which is when I do most of my knitting. So I didn't work on this much yesterday, but I really need to crack on because I would really like to finish it by the end of this week. I'm not going to say what it is yet, but it's not a sweater, so it is a lot smaller than a sweater, but I really would like to finish it by the end of this week. So we'll see how I get on with that. So that is my priority project this week, which is why I will not be knitting any more of these lace squares until this is finished. The only thing would be if I get to the evening and I'm in too much pain to knit on the stranded colorwork project. I have problems with my neck, and I find that knitting stranded colorwork because I have to look at it more. It does hurt my neck more. Anything that involves me looking down hurts my neck. And normally when I knit, I try and look straight ahead if I can. So when I knit in my comfy chair, I tend to, instead of having my knitting in my lap, if I'm knitting something I need to look at, I tend to hold it be higher up and rest my arms on the armrest in my chair and then look at the telly. But with stranded colorwork, I do have to look at it more often, although this is, because of the pattern repeat in this one, it's easier because I can just count it in my head and it is easier to not look at it. But there has been a couple of evenings where by kind of 8 o'clock I've had a bit of a headache, a neck pain, and I've had to put this down and pick up something else. So if that happens, then I will pick up the lace squares. But apart from that, I'm not intending to work on the lace squares till I've finished this stranded colorwork project. So last night we went to the cinema. I know Barbie and Oppenheimer came out last weekend, and we want to see both of those, but we decided we did not want to go and see them in the first weekend or the first week. We decided not to go to the cinema over the weekend. We kind of talked about it on Saturday because the weather was horrible on Saturday, but we decided not to, and then we decided on to go yesterday instead. So we decided rather than seeing Oppenheimer or Barbie, we'd go and see Mission Impossible 7, I think it is. Apparently it's a two-parter. So the film was 2 hours and 45 minutes long. I am of the opinion that anything longer than 2 hours is too long for a film. It's not so bad if you're watching it at home because you can like watch half the film one night and half the next night. But sitting in the cinema for 3 hours is just way too long. But I did enjoy the film. Apparently it is part 1, so there will be a part 2. So it didn't kind of really come to a conclusion as such. I was asking Simon whether we've seen all the Mission Impossibles, and I think we've seen most of them. We may have missed 1 or 2, like I don't know when the last one was. But we certainly used to see like the early ones. So we've probably seen most of them, but I'm not sure. But I did enjoy the film. It was, I get a little bit, it's an action film, and there was a lot of there's a very lengthy like car chase scene that just felt like it went on for too long. And for me, as I said, 3 hours, because it was 3 hours with the preview stuff and ads and things. 3 hours is just way too long. At the cinema we go to, which is View in Plymouth, they have these new-ish, they're not that new anymore, they've been around for a few years now, but these recliner seats that's supposed to be really comfortable. I think they're awful. I think the seats they used to have before were so much more comfortable. So these seats, they are leather or feel like leather. I'm not sure if they're leather, but they feel like leather, and they're very slippery, and they are very reclined before you actually recline them. So what I do like about them is that they're quite wide and they're quite big, so you haven't got anyone right on top of you, which is great when you're knitting, so you've got a bit more space. And they have like a lap tray almost that comes in front of you, which I also like, and that has like a cup holder and things, so I do like that. But what I don't like is that before you recline them, they're already quite reclined. So I mentioned I got problems with my neck. I need to sit upright enough that I'm not getting like a kink in my neck, because if I lie back like that and then to knit, I have to, or even see the screen, I have to pull my neck forward, and I get that kind of kink in my neck the same as I do when I look down, and that kind of kink in my neck really causes me a lot of pain. And I can't sit in that seat. If I sit in that seat like back like that, I feel like I can't see the screen. We were in the second row to the back, from the back, second row from the back. Maybe if you sit at the front it's different, I don't know, but I've never reclined the chairs because I knit when I'm at the cinema, so I don't particularly want to lie down anyway. And I just find them really uncomfortable, and I think that's maybe why I don't like films that are 3 hours long, because the fact that I just find after 2 hours I start to focus on the fact that I'm getting a headache and my neck's hurting. But the film was 3 hours, well, 2 hours and 45 minutes long. So we went to the cinema a couple of weeks ago when we were in Wales, and I knitted on this sock and what do we see? Android City. No, Asteroid City. I keep calling it Android City. Asteroid City. And I knitted from there to about there. I knitted 60 rounds and I have 64 stitches per round. Let me just do the maths again. So 60 times 64, that was 3,840 stitches. I'm going to just write this down quickly. Hang on. So the last time I went to the cinema, the cinema was 105 minutes, plus I guess about 15 minutes of the preview, so that's about 2 hours. That's long enough in the cinema, by the way. So it's 3,840 stitches. Now yesterday I had already knitted the rib on this sock, so I'd finished the rib before we went to the cinema, and then I knitted from there all the way to there. I actually had to unpick 3 rounds this morning because I'd gone 3 rounds too far. I did have my row counter with me and I was trying to click it at the end of every round. I could feel at the end of the round because I just felt for the yarn tail, and I tried to click it every time, and then every so often I would just grab my phone and not switch it on but just press the on button so that screen light came on, and then just had a quick look. We were at the edge of the row and there was like a wall next to me, so there was nobody to the right of me, and there was Simon to the left of me, and then there was somebody behind me, but they actually left halfway through. Don't think it was because of my knitting. So I knitted 73 rounds on this sock, and this sock is also 64 stitches, so 64 times 73 is 4,672. Hang on, I'm just going to write this down. 4,672. And then, well, I actually knitted more after that, but before I go on, I did actually make a couple of mistakes. I dropped 3 stitches. Not good, is it? But I do drop stitches quite often because I knit with the stitches really close to my needle tip, and sometimes they just fly off the needles. But I dropped 3 stitches. I thought I'd managed to pick them up, but 2 of them, they felt just a bit funny. What I do at the cinema is I look at the screen, I hold my knitting up like that, and if there's a bright screen on the screen, if there's a bright scene, you can normally see it, and if I drop the stitch I can normally pick it up, but there wasn't that many bright scenes, so I wasn't sure. So last night when I came home I checked to make sure that I hadn't made any mistakes. When I knitted this one in the cinema, everything was fine, and when I looked at this one, there was one bit where I caught just like one ply of the strand, so I had to fix that, and then there were 2 other places where it just felt a bit lumpy, so I knew something had gone wrong. So I filmed a video this morning of me fixing it, and that will be on YouTube next week on Tuesday. So that'll be the video coming up on Tuesday. So that was the first sock I knitted. So I knew that it was a long film because I checked that before we went. So, and I knew that as I knitted 60 rounds in the last film we saw, which was 2 hours with the previews, I knew that doing 70 rounds on this wouldn't be enough knitting. So, and I have done a heel flap and heel turn in the cinema once before, but it's not very easy, and I'm pretty sure the cinema used to be lighter. They used to have little tiny spotlights along the staircase. I guess if people leave the cinema they're not going to fall over, but they don't have those anymore, and it's a lot darker than it used to be. So I decided I wasn't going to try doing the heel flap and all that kind of stuff, and also I like to check that everything I've done at the cinema is okay before I go any further. So I cast on for a second sock. Now this is yarn that I got ready because I knew that we will be seeing Barbie at some point, so I thought it'd be fun when we go to see Barbie to have a pink yarn. So I got this yarn. It's from Truly Hooked. It's the sparkle sock. See, there are sparkles in there. And it's a kind of Barbie-ish colorway, isn't it? So I cast on for this, and I knitted to there. Hang on, where that marker is. That little pink sheet marker. So to there, where my finger is. And so by half the rib. So, and I hadn't decided whether I was going to do the whole thing in rib or do about 25 rounds of rib and then stocking stitch. I actually ended up doing 30 rounds of rib. I think looks like 30 rounds, and then stocking stitch. So what I did was I kept clicking my row counter at the end of every round, and after a while I looked and it said 25, but I'm sure when I counted it, it was 30. Let me just double check. Yes, I've done 30 rounds of rib. On my row counter it said 25, but I may not have counted the ones I'd done before I went to the film correctly. So I thought, well, I'll change to stocking stitch. So I did in total on this sock, I did, let me just check because I haven't counted this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 rounds. So 24 rounds times 64 stitches is 1,536. 1,536. So I knitted 4,672 on my first sock, 1,536 stitches on my second sock, which makes it a total of 6,208 stitches, which is quite good, I think, for a 3-hour film. 3 hours with the previews. So my plan is for the opal sock, this is opal sock yarn, for the opal sock in progress, I'm going to do the heel flap and heel turn and the gusset, and then we will be going to see Oppenheimer at some point. So what I will probably do is do the heel flap and heel turn and everything. If we go out at all over the next weekend to do anything else, I might take it with me and knit a little bit. But apart from that, I will hold on to that till we go and see. We're talking about going to the cinema again next week and see Oppenheimer, and then we're actually planning to go and see Barbie with the girls, with our daughters. I think they've already seen it. I think they were going to go and see it yesterday maybe, but we might go and see it with them because I think they quite fancy seeing it twice. So I'm going to do the heel flap and the heel turn and the gusset for the first sock, and then I will also take this one with me and carry on with this one. So hopefully by the time we've seen Oppenheimer, I will have finished the opal sock and made some more progress on the Barbie sock. We will see. I'll keep you posted. Another thing that will be coming up for August is a series of tutorials on stretchy cast-offs. So we had a discussion in the last workshop I did because it was on lace knitting, and my favorite lacy cast-off is the Russian cast-off. I do not know why it's called the Russian cast-off. When I first came across it on a blog somewhere many years ago, that was the name it had been given, but I've also seen it called the lace cast-off and stretchy cast-off, but there are other cast-offs called the lacy cast-off and stretchy cast-off. So I've just stuck to calling it the Russian cast-off. I don't know whether there's anything actually Russian about it, but I don't know. So that's going to be the first one. And then I'm going to show something called the lace cast-off, the sewn cast-off, and the Icelandic cast-off. And if you're American, then you can change cast-off and bind off. So that's going to come out in August. I was going to start it next week, but I'm going to do this sock drop stitch tutorial thing first. So it's going to come out the week after. So there will be 4 Tuesdays in August where I will have these stretchy cast off tutorials. Make sure you're signed up to my newsletter because I am planning to in August. August is my birthday month. My birthday is not till the end of the month, but August is my birthday month, and I'm thinking because summers are a little bit slow and I'm not teaching it at all in August, I'm planning instead to run some special offers. So I'm planning some offers in August. and I'm not going to say anything more about them now, but they will be announced in my newsletter first. So the first one will go out next week in my newsletter, so make sure you sign up to my newsletter. The link is below this video, or just go to my website yarnaddict.co.uk to sign up, and then you won't miss out. I will try and remember to mention them in the podcast every week as well, but just in case I don't do a podcast one week, it is worth signing up for a newsletter to make sure you don't miss out. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you haven't subscribed to it, please consider subscribing, and give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.